Good morning, Rikki.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me to join you.
Of course. My name is Jordan, and I'm a social worker at the Thethorpe Recovery Center. I provide support to those we serve by facilitating opportunities and resources that will aid them on their recovery journey. The Thethorpe Recovery Center is an accredited nonprofit treatment center for those with substance use disorders. Rikki is a registered yoga instructor and meditation teacher. She's also a Reiki master practitioner and teacher, and she's currently a student of psychology in her final semester. Yay!
Yay!
So working a highly stressful corporate marketing career in downtown Calgary and feeling the overwhelming need to de-stress, move her body, and calm her mind, Rikki found a yoga studio near her home and quickly fell in love with the practice. Having been born and raised on a farm in Saskatchewan, living a practical life was deeply rooted within her. Yoga and meditation offered her the tools she needed to move with grace through life stresses. She used these practices to carry her through pregnancy, the stresses of motherhood, physical health issues, and the grief that came after losing her mother. This did not always take place inside a studio. She often found herself making time and creating space at home to practice. She wants to encourage others to do the same. Using over 15 years of experience and certification as a yoga and meditation educator, she guides others to use yoga and meditation in a practical way. Rikki's goal is to help educate people at any stage in life practice in a safe, gentle, and practical way. So Sage and Seven, which is Rikki's business, is dedicated to sharing and creating content that educates and inspires through mindfulness, meditation, and yoga practices. So once again, thank you so much, Rikki. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you virtually today.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited to be speaking with you as well, Jordan.
Yeah,
so
it's nice to kind of see a different face outside of everyday normal life, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because here I am.
Exactly. So we'll just jump right into it. So
okay.
What is the relationship that Sage and Seven has with the Thethorpe Recovery Center?
So I guess the first thing I do at the Thethorpe Center is I do practice with the clients there on Sundays for yoga practice.
Awesome.
And I really look forward to Sundays. I really look forward to meeting with the clients. I did start out though as a volunteer with the Thethorpe Center for the running program. So so besides yoga, I also love to run. So when I was approached to help be a pacer for that program, I was like, yeah, for sure. So so I'm kind of in there in two ways. And I know that program is going to be starting up in the spring here again.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I can start coming back to the Thethorpe Center to start teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Zoom was great, but it's fun to be in front of everyone too.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. You get that more personal feel to it for sure.
Exactly. Yes.
And so how long has Sage and Seven been in service, and are you a nonprofit organization?
So I've been teaching mindfulness and meditation since around 2014. I wouldn't say that I'm a nonprofit organization, but I would say that I work on sliding scales, and I also do volunteer my time. Schools, other organizations have asked me to come and just volunteer my services, and I've absolutely done that too.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Kind of like giving that bit of passion that you have to other people, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
Any way I can do that.
Yeah. Especially right now, right?
Yes.
And how has your programming changed due to COVID?
Well, it's changed drastically. From moving from studio, private and corporate yoga in studio settings, where there was no cap on the only cap was the amount of people that you could have in the room, basically.
Right.
And now the cap is a lot different. Moving certain practices to Zoom, so teaching yoga on Zoom, that's been a real challenge.
Yeah.
And moving some of the other workshops that I do online as well, some of the meditation and mindfulness workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I just actually finished one in February. That would have been February. Yeah, I mean, it went well. It was great. I mean, we made it work, but we did kind of miss, or at least I did miss, the connection with people and being able to sit and speak about these practices in that way. Was a little bit more disjointed, I guess you could say, on Zoom.
Yeah, totally. Because you kind of miss that connection piece, right? Like people might not be able to pay as much attention to like the screen or that type of thing. It just, being in person makes it a lot more engaged for sure.
Yeah, and I would, I mean, encourage everyone to put their videos on, but a lot of people preferred not to have their video on, and so, you know, it was that sort of thing, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So
it's like that accountability piece, right?
Yeah, but it worked. We did okay. So
yeah, exactly.
I would do it again. It was a challenge, so I would do it again.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about like my at-home workouts when I doing a workout over Zoom, and I'm like, I'm just gonna turn my camera off so they don't see that I'm not like going full out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas if I had the camera on, it would make me more inclined to like keep going at it, right? At the same momentum.
Yes, and maybe even allow whoever's instructing you to be like, okay, Jordan, you know, try this.
Yes, right? Exactly. Like, I see you're struggling, let's modify that.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I know we've kind of talked a little bit about the services that you offer. So are there any fees for these services? I know you talked a lot about volunteering a lot of your time, but I guess maybe more so for people who seek you out privately, are there fees for these services?
Yes, there are. And, you know, usually when people come to me for fees, I have like set fees for different, like if it's a Reiki session, it's a set fee. If it's, you know, like a corporate yoga, group yoga, then it's usually a set price as well. But like I said, I do offer sliding scales depending, and usually for workshops and all of that stuff, it's just, it is what it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how can somebody access your programming? Do you have a website, or is there a platform that you use?
Yeah, I use Instagram mainly as my platform. Okay. I just find that a lot of people are on it. It's kind of, it's really streamlined. It's easy to get content out.
Right.
How I filled the last workshop that I did. So yeah, and I guess even above Facebook, it's just been better. So my handle is @Sajan7. And so, you know, anybody can follow me on there, and they can absolutely, you know, direct message me and get any information that they want. I do have, you know, I've got my email, I've got other ways of contacting. So yeah, I just, yeah, that's how.
Awesome. Yeah, and so we can actually link all of that information to this interview at the end, which will be perfect.
Sounds great.
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah. And so are there any requirements to enter your programming or the services that you provide?
I don't think that I have any requirements to enter anything. You know, yoga specifically is, we do kind of speak from it's for everybody. And so as far as requirements, no. I think that the only requirement would be that you have an open mind and that you're willing to try something new, and that's basically it. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't one of the questions that I had sent to you previously, Rikki, but I was wondering if you can maybe just explain what Reiki is, and maybe even how yoga can influence one's mental health and the meditation piece as well, because I think that's really important stuff for people to know too.
Yeah, so Reiki is a practice that originated in Japan, actually, and it's an energy practice, and it's really quite relaxing. I would say it's similar to a massage in that that's how relaxing it is, but it's not like a massage. It's either light touch or no touch, hands just above, and it's accessible because you know, like let's say you have someone who's elderly and they're maybe not able to go out for an actual massage. Maybe they're in their home. You can actually come to them. They can just sit in a chair, and that's how accessible it is. So it is energy work. It makes you feel balanced, grounded. There's lots of different things that people say that they feel after a Reiki session, but mostly I think what it can trigger is the rest and digest in the nervous system. Gotcha. So it helps you go from, like a fight or flight or like a stress mode into a relaxed mode. So I think across the board, that's what everybody feels after a Reiki session.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's kind of like focusing on like the body's energies almost.
Yeah, exactly. And, like I said, just like a massage, works on somebody's energy as well. And Reiki is no different. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And everybody's going to be different too, right? Like one's experience might not be exactly the same as someone else's.
Exactly. Yeah. But I love how Reiki is so accessible for everyone.
Yeah, no kidding. Like you said, you can pretty much take place like anywhere too, right?
Anywhere. Yeah,
I love that piece too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so with that, I know like you had talked about like people being like needing to be open-minded, right? Because that can really influence the way that they receive the services, right? Mm-hmm. So on top of that, are there any other like program expectations when you're working with people, that kind of thing?
Well, I think, from working with people, I think it's up to me as the person facilitating. Let's say it's a group yoga, the first thing that I need to do as someone who's facilitating that program is to make them feel comfortable about the space that they're in.
Right.
So making it a welcoming space, making it feel like, they can come as they are. They don't have to, they can wear an old t-shirt and comfortable jogging pants. They don't need to have, the most expensive yoga pants that, that they can buy to practice this stuff. It's not like that. And then I think, another expectation, I guess, I think that this maybe comes from the other side, from what people who come to yoga practice have their own expectations of what they think their body can do, what they think, other people can do. Maybe they're looking, beside them or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Really, I just encourage people in that setting to just take what they know about yoga and just set it aside.
Yeah.
And allow the teacher to guide you into a practice that you feel comfortable with.
Right.
And I think that that's really it. I mean, having expectations for yoga and for these kinds of practices can really almost taint the experience, right?
Totally.
Drawing conclusions about what you think your body can do and what you think your body can't do.
Yeah.
And really, everybody's practice is different. I mean, my practice when I started, in my 20s, looks a lot different from what my practice looks like now that I'm 41, right? So it's totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't have the range of motion that I used to have when I was in my 20s, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what people need to understand, is that with any practice, with mindfulness, with meditation, with yoga, it's really about starting where you're at. Start with where your body, where your mind, where everything is at, and then from there, do what you can.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's really how you build a practice in mindfulness and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because each session isn't going to be the same too, right? Like, because your body might be a bit more tense one day or might be feeling a bit more loose the other day. So it's like we can't put these big expectations on ourselves and on our bodies. And I love how you said, like, we almost like have to meet ourselves where we're at in that moment.
You absolutely do. Yeah. Every day is totally different. So meet your body where it's at, meet your mind where it's at.
Yeah.
And then obviously grace, give yourself some grace and be gentle with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think too, it's like meeting yourself where you're emotionally at too, right? Because I know for myself, like sometimes when I've done yoga, like I'll just start tearing up. Like I get like emotional sometimes, like in certain poses, right, where we may feel a bit more vulnerable. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about yoga and meditation is that your body is able to release those emotions that you might not have recognized were even there before.
Totally. Our bodies, I'm 100%, I believe that our bodies store emotions in different
Yeah.
parts of our physical selves. And so, yeah, if you're it can even happen in running.
Right.
It can happen in any movement where you can feel, any emotion coming through.
Yeah.
And yoga is no different. Obviously, you've had that experience too, where,
Yeah.
You're in some posture and the body just goes, okay,
Yeah.
I can feel that finally. And I think that maybe that's what it is with yoga, especially. It is sort of that process of slowing each posture down, slowing
Right.
your body down,
Mhm.
and then something clicks and you're able to feel it finally. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of my favorite things about the practice of yoga anyways is like that emotional piece and that connecting your emotions to your body and incorporating the deep breathing and all that good stuff that just
Absolutely.
makes you feel light almost afterwards or heavy depending on the experience you had during your practice.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's where the grace part comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Give
Even
yourself
though I
grace.
would not, yeah, I would not define myself as a very graceful person, but sometimes during yoga, I'm like, I'm impressed with myself. I was able to hold that like balancing pose, right?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, anybody can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even though I can't do the splits, but maybe one day I'll be able to.
One day, yeah.
One day.
Honestly, you know what? I always say this to people, like, I am not the most flexible person in the world, and I am a yoga teacher. And you don't have to be the most flexible person in the world to be a yoga teacher. That isn't a prerequisite.
Right.
I came to yoga, number one, for stress a long time ago. And I found out really quickly in that, in the first week of yoga classes that I took, that I could barely touch my toes. I had been sitting at a desk for a couple of years by that point, and it's amazing how that can really affect a young body, and it does. And so, yeah, I remember thinking, why am I coming here? Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
I can barely touch my toes even.
Right.
But I think I had made a pact with myself. I had said, I'm going to get through this pass. I had bought a pass at a yoga studio. I was like, I'm going to get through this pass and I'm going to see how it goes after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just continued to buy passes after that, because there was something different than just that physical part that, there was a whole other, there was other parts moving. And I just remember thinking, there's something to this stuff and I should keep going. Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just that physical piece, right? For me, I look at yoga because I practice yoga quite often, and for me it's almost like therapy. And it's therapy that I can like teach myself in the movements, in the vulnerable postures and all that kind of stuff too. And it's really amazing how your body can release that energy too.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the greatest part about yoga is that there's so many different practices out there. There's so many different teachers in town, and that you will find your niche. You will find the practice that you love,
right?
Whether that's, something a little bit more physical, to something that feels more gentle, like a yin practice, which yin is like one of my favorite practices, to be honest. Regardless of who you are and what you're looking for, you probably can find a yoga class that is suited to you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because like some people may have the misconception that with yoga they have to be constantly moving, right? But I've had so many yoga instructors tell me, like, if you want to lay in child's pose or like corpse pose, like for the whole time, that's totally up to you. It's your practice. And like sometimes you just need that, right? Like just to be grounded and connected to your mat and to your body, even if you're not like physically like exerting yourself.
Totally. Yeah. And yes. And and that's awesome. Any teacher that allows you to work those postures in whatever way you need to,
Yeah.
to get through, that posture, the class, whatever it is. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you the power, right?
Totally. Yeah. Like super individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So along with the programming, have you noticed, like, are there any preconceived barriers for like your programming, like yoga, Reiki, meditation, that potential clients should not be concerned about? Like maybe, some myths about yoga or Reiki or any of that?
Yeah, I think, well, let's, I guess, start with Reiki. I think a myth with Reiki is that maybe it's like, I don't know. I don't really know the words for this, but maybe it's like make believe or pretend or whatever, something to be like looked at in kind of like a sketchy way or something. That's not it. Reiki has been around for a really, really long time. Like I said, it's originated in Japan, and it was really a healing practice. Really a way for somebody to connect with themselves in a way that helped them to like connect their physical pain and their emotional side and kind of balance those two. So I think the misconceptions with Reiki, being like magic or something like that is really not there. And I say to people about Reiki, well, all you need to do, and right now this is kind of difficult because of COVID, because nobody can hug.
Oh, yeah. I know.
But if you have someone who you can hug, what I always say to people is, I just want you to think of a time when you felt like sad and someone gave you a really big hug. And then what that hug did for you, like that touch, that physical contact, what it did for you. That's really what Reiki does for someone. It's like giving you a big hug. It's like that energy kind of holds you, and so that's what I say. Reiki's like an energetic hug.
Yeah, that's a really good way to describe that. I love that.
Yeah.
For sure. And then have you noticed if there's any preconceived or misconceptions with like yoga or anything like that?
Yeah, so with yoga, I think the misconception is, like we mentioned this before, about you have to be flexible, you have to be in a certain physical, you have to look a certain way. I think that, social media has been awesome for getting the word out about what yoga practices, meditation practices are. However, from a physical stance, from how you physically look, it hasn't been great. The misconception is that maybe you have to be a small body to do yoga, and you don't. You have any body, you can do yoga, right?
And you don't have to be decked out in all yoga, like all what is that, Lululemon gear?
No.
No,
and you do not. So I think that's a big misconception about the practice, and that maybe we in the West have done that to yoga, and that it is an Eastern practice. Obviously, it originates from India. So, I just think that the roots of yoga were definitely not there.
Yeah, exactly, totally,
So misconception is that I have to look a certain way, or I have to be a certain way before I go into a yoga class, and that's not true. And like I said, you can find any class to suit your abilities and needs. And I think also, just piggybacking on that, would be the misconceptions about mindfulness and meditation, that it has to be, in a room alone. It's got to be dark, or maybe you've got to have candles lit. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to paint a picture of like what a meditation practice can look like. And really it can start with just really simple, small steps. It can start with you downloading, meditation onto your phone and listening to it at night before you go to bed. If that's what you have time and space for. It can be putting your phone aside in the morning and just having your morning coffee in peace and quiet before you actually look at your phone.
Right.
And then just, sitting with your coffee in the morning in a quiet way, just being in that presence of that moment, right? And so mindfulness is just a witness to the present moment. That's all it is.
Yeah.
To be mindful is to watch the present moment. And so, any chance that you can get to kind of take that in, whether that's, like looking at the sky or the clouds or the sunset or the sunrise, or watching your kids play if you have children, or, walking your dog and just noticing everything about that walk, that is mindfulness, being in the present moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like it kind of, that expands onto like that gratitude piece too, right? Because when we're present and we're able to connect with what's going on in like the current moment, other than like what's going on our phone or social media, we're able to connect and be like, you know what, like, wow, it's beautiful out. Like, it's so warm out. Like, it feels so good, right? Like, kind of like appreciating those little things that we might not notice if we're like always on our phone or like talking to someone or on our computer or something, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that that's a big part of it, that if we can just take small little chunks of our day just for ourselves, and create that space that we can, start to cultivate gratitude, start to cultivate a connection, and I think that that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Just taking it moment by moment. And I love that. I think you explained that perfectly, Rikki.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I know we're kind of at the end of our interview here, but I just wanted to like open it up if you had anything that we may not have mentioned throughout the interview that you wanted to talk about before we wrap things up.
Yeah, I just think that the services that I provide, specifically at the center itself, at the Thethorpe Center itself, I think what's really important about having, mindfulness, someone coming in to teach mindfulness or meditation or yoga practices, I think that really, for someone who's taken this step to go into recovery, they've obviously built up the courage to do that. And now I think with everything that the center offers, these little pieces, especially in mindfulness, can help them explore their own realities, and they can help explore their states of mind and their physical selves. And I think that's a really, really important thing, because mindfulness, yoga, and meditation are so accessible.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like another little piece that someone can put into their own little toolbox.
Yeah.
And so that when they do go out again into life, that hopefully they can remember those pieces and pull from them. Exactly. And obviously, exposure to these kinds of practices can really help someone go, I really loved that. I'm going to go find a yoga studio, or I'm gonna join a meditation workshop. Because I really enjoyed that piece of my journey in recovery. So I think it's a really important thing to have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like you mentioned before too, like the accessibility of it, right? Like it's something that they could easily do like while on their way to work, or like while they're getting ready in the morning, right? Like it's something that they could do at really any time of the day, which is, as you mentioned, like such a great coping tool to have with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just like it's another tool that you can put in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Pull it out when you need it. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know, like, I've heard lots of the clients talk about like when you were coming on site and how awesome it was and how much they loved yoga. And we typically get lots of clients asking like, so there's yoga on Sundays? Like, what's that all about? And we're like, yes, like you should definitely go. You're going to love it. So awesome. I just want to say thank you so much, Rikki, for all the work that you're doing out in the community and the work that you've done for Thorpe. I know it's made a huge difference in so many people's lives here. So we really appreciate it and can't wait until you can come back.
Yay. Yes. Yeah. I think I can come back this weekend. So
yay. That's awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. It makes me wish sometimes that I could be here on the weekends, just so I can partake in the yoga. Yeah. But once again, Rikki, I just want to thank you so much for joining me on this segment's Coffee with our Community Connections during COVID. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and yeah, we just really appreciate everything that you're doing out in the community and for our clients here at Thorpe.
Okay, well, thank you, Jordan. I really appreciated the call to come and do this. I was excited to do it, and yeah, have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you too. Hopefully see you in the near future.
You bet. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.